Things are gonna get crazy.
Most everyone's mad here.
Yes, it is time once again that we get things started with an all-new episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How are we all doing, folks? Man, it has been quite a crazy week when it comes to news, especially when most of the ones that I have actually came out last week. Like, just after I've done my episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast last week, suddenly, the day afterwards, that's when we got a whole bunch of big news. In fact, like, the grand majority of this will come from just the start of the week. It was very rare that I would start things off with, like, already my list full and then updating it with better news to go and discuss here in this episode. But either way, I know that with this one in particular, it's going to be quite exciting, and I know that this is going to be one that we will have a lot to go and talk about. So, with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you guys, are you all ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it. Are we all ready now? Let's see now. Are we prepared? Yes, some people are ready. Okay, good. Yes. All right, that's beautiful. That's great. All right, so now that we are all prepared, then it looks like it is a good sign that we could go and get things started. And by the way, this episode is going to start off a little bit with some deja vu over here. Because if you may recall in the last episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, I began by talking about the Annie Awards, considering that very soon award season is about to come, and I started things off by discussing about my thoughts on the big awards that happened there. Well, it looks like the same thing is going to happen again, but this time we're not going to be talking about the Annies, but instead, we are going to be discussing about the Golden Globe Awards. Yes, it was on Monday that the Hollywood Foreign Press has revealed their list of nominations for the 77th Annual Golden Globe Awards. And there have been a lot of very interesting choices and a lot of big names that have been nominated and some major serious competitors that shows us a little preview of what could possibly be to come that's going to be happening at the next Oscars in 2020. So, with that said, let's start things off by looking into the two big categories. Best Motion Picture for Drama and Best Motion Picture for Musical or Comedy. So, start things off, let's take a look at the drama category. So, the nominees for Best Motion Picture in a Drama include The Irishman, Marriage Story, 1917, Joker, and The Two Popes. Now let's go and move on to our next category, Best Motion Picture in a Musical or Comedy. And the nominees for those are Dolomite Is My Name, Jojo Rabbit, Knives Out, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Rocket Man. But hold on a minute. This is AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. We're not really here to look into the movies or whatever TV shows there are. Oh, which by the way, actually, just for a little bonus, let's actually look into the Best Television Series, both for Drama and Best Musical or Comedy. So the nominees for Best Television Series in a Drama are Big Little Lies, The Crown, Killing Eve, The Morning Show, and Succession. And now for Best Television Series in a Musical or Comedy, they are Barry, Fleabag, The Kominsky Method, The Marvelous Miss Maisel, and The Politician. But now let's go into the ones that you guys really want to hear about. Best Animated Feature, or Best Motion Picture in the Animation category. Now this is one that really got a lot of people talking, and this is going to be the main one that we are going to be discussing about. And so, folks, the nominees for Best Motion Picture in the animation category are, if I can find it, there it is. The nominees are Frozen 2, How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, The Lion King, Missing Link, and Toy Story 4. But this isn't the only category that features some animated films in there, or at least the ones that are nominated here as well. There are 2 movies that are not just nominated in Best Animated Feature, but also have a nomination in Best Original Song. And this would actually be both Frozen and The Lion King. Frozen 2 got a nomination for Best Original Song for Into the Unknown, and The Lion King got a nomination for Best Original Song for Spirit. And they are going to be in competition for that category, along with Beautiful Ghosts from Cats, I'm Gonna Love Me Again from Rocketman, and Stand Up from Harriet. So with all that said, let's go into the Best Animated Feature category and what we got here. And I would like to go and start things off with the positives, the ones that I do like to see here. And I'm actually really happy for most of the ones that are nominated, because a lot of these are actually very good, and they deserve to have the recognition from the awards, like, regardless of which one it is. Like, each and every, like, many of these are actually well-deserved, from Frozen 2 to How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, Missing Link, and Toy Story 4. I personally feel like they are among some of the best mainstream animated features that we have gotten in 2019, and they definitely do deserve to have this kind of recognition. They did an impeccable job, and even with Frozen 2, I really am happy to see that at least one of the songs actually did get nominated. I know that some people might say that maybe Into the Unknown is not necessarily their favorite, like some prefer either Lost in the Woods or Show Yourself, but Into the Unknown is still a very powerful and great song on its own, and really does pack that same punch as much as Let It Go from the original Frozen. So I really am happy that at least one song did receive a nomination. Now with that said, let us get into the big elephant in the room. The one that really got a lot of people talking, and the most awkward addition onto this, The Lion King. The 2019 photorealistic remake that has been nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Golden Globes. Now, I've heard a lot of rumors and I've heard a lot of speculation that this was a decision from the Hollywood Foreign Press, that Disney did not want to go and qualify this onto the Best Animated Feature category and want to put this onto the Best Best Picture for Musical or Comedy. Like, they put it up there, and then it was the Hollywood Foreign Press that decided to go and make the old switcheroo. Now, there have been reports on this. I don't know if there has been some confirmation about it, but that was something that has been spread around. And of course, this had a lot of discussions brought up on social media, mainly because of the everlasting discussion regarding if the Lion King remake is an animated film or not. I know that I have discussed this plenty of times in my videos, and I've discussed this even more times on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. It's an ongoing conversation, and especially with the awards season, I don't think it's going to be a discussion that's going to end anytime soon. But I'm going to be very honest with you guys. I highly doubt if that is actually true. I highly doubt if it actually was the Hollywood Foreign Press that decided to do the old switcheroo onto The Lion King and just slap it onto Best Animated Feature without Disney's consent. Because if, number one, and the big main thing is that if you look at how Disney is reacting right now, they seem to be welcoming it with open arms. They seem to be more than happy that the Lion King remake has received 2 nominations, including for Best Animated Feature. Now, this doesn't necessarily surprise me that that Disney is reacting that way, that, they are happy about it, because if it were actually true, if Disney would still be sticking their guns to this day that it is a live action film and all that kind of stuff, then they would object to it. They would go and talk to the Hollywood Foreign Press and ask for some kind of change or even full on remove The Lion King from the best animated feature category to not be recognized there. But they didn't. So that's why, honestly, I do have a little bit of doubts. I'm not saying that it's not factually true. It could be. But for me, I feel like there is a little bit of doubt on it. And I feel like, yes, Disney might have done this on purpose and actually submit this onto the best animated feature category as well. But with that said, honestly, this really does not surprise me that this actually did happen. This did not surprise me that Disney would go and let the Hollywood Foreign Press nominate The Lion King for Best Animated Feature. Because we saw throughout 2019, and especially throughout the summer when the film was released, Disney and the media really tried hard in order to push the narrative that this remake of The Lion King is a live action remake, that it's the same kind of movie that is no different and should not be viewed any differently than what they released with the Aladdin remake, with the Dumbo remake, or with Maleficent Mistress of Evil, or even on Disney Plus when they brought out that Lady and the Tramp remake. This doesn't surprise me at all. Like, in no way whatsoever, because the thing is, they keep pushing it, but then here comes this, where now the Hollywood Foreign Press, it says that it's an animated film, and Disney is okay with it, as long as they could benefit from it. That's the main catch. They will only call this an animated film if they could take advantage, if there is something that they could gain from having it be called an animated film. Because for the longest time, Disney and the media is like, no, this is not an animated film. Don't call this an animated film. Our animated films this year are Frozen 2 and Toy Story 4. This is a live action movie. Everything is made to look real, so it is real. And then suddenly here comes the Hollywood Foreign Press like, okay, well, technically this does count as an animated film. We could nominate this for Best Animated Feature if you want. And then Disney is like, wait, we can actually gain a nomination for this? For a Golden Globe? Like, we could give like a bonus Golden Globe nomination? Well, if the shoe fits, then I guess we could call it an animated film in this instance, you know? I think it can work out. That I knew it was gonna happen. It is so predictable of freaking Disney or any major company that would have a movie like this. If they would, like, it's not just Disney that I'm accusing of. I know that literally any other major studio, if they would have a photorealistic animated film, that they would consider it as an animated film, so as long as they could go and benefit and really cash in on it. So for anything, Disney is just doing it for that extra credit for saying that, oh, it's a 2-time Golden Globe nominee. It's nominated for Best Motion Picture in the animation category. And I'm sure they're going to go and promote it like that. They're not going to flat out say Best Animated Feature. They're really going to use that title, Best Motion Picture Animated. Just to like kind of hide the fact that it is animation, where at first glance it's like, oh, it got a Best Motion Picture category. Oh, for animation, of course. Like, I'm sure that this is why Disney would go and do it. That they would allow this. But one thing that I will say that does disappoint me a little bit, more so than having The Lion King be nominated, because yeah, like, for me personally, my opinion is that, yeah, The Lion King remake is just blah. Like, I do admire the technical achievements that's been done. Like, the visuals are absolutely phenomenal, but other than that, it's just a soulless remake of the 1994 film. Like, you watch this, and you just consider, like, why am I looking at this movie when I could just watch the original animated film and I get the same thing, but better? So, it's not really that. So, yeah, like, for me, I can think of other films that do deserve a nomination more so than The Lion King in this category, but what does disappoint me more so than the fact that The Lion King is nominated, is the fact that there are no indie films that are nominated. If you look into the category for Best Animated Feature here, every single one is a mainstream film. It's a mainstream animated movie that has been released in theaters worldwide. And that's literally it. We don't have any other ones that are from other places. Like, we don't have limited release movies, we don't have Netflix movies, we don't have any indie films. And it's kind of shocking because in the past years, the Golden Globes had been improving on that, where they do have some representation from indie films for the best animated feature category. Like we've seen them climb up the ladder a little bit, where they added nominations like, I believe My Life as a Zucchini got a nomination. Then we got The Breadwinner and Loving Vincent. And even last year we had Mirai. But then this year, they're kind of going back to their old habit of literally just nominating animated films that are only mainstream. Like, no indie films whatsoever. Just go with the ones that everybody is kind of familiar with. Like, we don't have any representation from I Lost My Body. I Lost My Body didn't get a nomination. We didn't get a nomination from Weathering With You. We didn't even get a nomination from Klaus. And some people may say that's probably the biggest animated snub this year at the Golden Globes, is the fact that Klaus did not get a single nomination. Now, some people might argue it's mainly because it's just a Netflix movie and it doesn't necessarily count like in the same leagues as like with the Disney films, or like with DreamWorks or with Laika and stuff like that. But that wouldn't necessarily be the case, because you look at the nomination, Quiet Doggy. I hear a doggy that's just barking outside like a real beast, and it's like, yeesh, man, that's a powerful bark. But anyways, you look into the best motion picture categories, and you look at all the other categories in general, and you will find that a lot of them are actually from Netflix. In fact, the grand majority of the best motion picture drama category is Netflix films. Like, you got The Irishman, Marriage Story, The Two Popes, Dolomite Is My Name, and a few others as well that have been just from Netflix. So it's not really the case that Netflix doesn't get representation at the Golden Globes, because they got plenty of representation so far. It's just somehow Klaus just got left out in favor of just having all mainstream movies. And that's the part where I do feel like it is actually very disappointing, where like, maybe they're just thinking that because very few people saw Missing Link, that they would just put that in as their indie film. But that doesn't necessarily count. Again, that is also a mainstream movie. And I mean, it's from Laika. Like, often Laika movies are kind of a go-to place where if you want to find something to nominate for Best Animated Feature. So that doesn't necessarily count. So that's honestly my problem with it. It's not necessarily the fact that The Lion King got nominated, but rather that it's all mainstream films, that we don't have representation from any of the smaller animated features that definitely deserve it more. Like, of course, a lot of people will pin the blame on The Lion King, but I think this is more the Hollywood Foreign Press's decision than anything. And it really sucks. It's a real disappointing sight to see that we don't have any small indie films. Like, we don't even have Klaus. You know, I'm sure Klaus would be a movie that would deserve a bit more attention, and especially to help boost up Netflix, to encourage them to produce more movies like Klaus that aren't just your typical computer animated kids flick, to go and actually produce like some hand-drawn animated films that are similar to Klaus. But with that said, I also like to get into a little bit of my commentary for Best Original Song that we got here. I don't feel like The Lion King should actually get a full-on nomination for Best Animated Feature, but I feel like they shouldn't necessarily get that much of a nomination for Best Original Song either, for the song Spirit. Because I'm going to be very honest, and I probably have expressed this before in AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, but my problem with Spirit is that it is such a forgettable song. And I'm going to ask the chat wall, and I would like to know, do you guys remember Spirit? Have you guys, like, do you actually recall the song from the live action remake, despite the fact that, like, the Lion King remake was so popular? Yeah, and already I'm starting to see in the chat wall, I don't think I got anybody in the chat wall who actually does recall Spirit. I remember when it had its world premiere on television, and me and my mom, we watched it on ABC. It was the full music video, and we both agreed. The music video itself was beautiful to watch. The worst thing about it was the song. We cannot remember a single thing from it. Like, maybe I remember just, like, how the verse kind of went, or, not the verse, or, the verse or the chorus or whatever. Like, I remember, like, the only thing is just, like, Spirit! It's my favorite DreamWorks film! I just like Spirit! And I like riding free! Or something like that. I don't know. I'm obviously making up the lyrics. But the thing is, I feel like in this case over here, like, the reason why Spirit is nominated for Best Original Song is not because of the song itself. And I wouldn't necessarily say it's because of the movie. It's not because, like, oh, The Lion King is such a hugely popular film, let's nominate Spirit. It's not because of that. I think, honestly, they just nominate it for the sake of the artist. The fact that it is from Beyonce. Like, the people who are considering the nominations, they're just there, oh, let's give this song a nomination, oh, we definitely gotta put it in there. Is it any good? Who cares? Beyonce is in it! It's Beyonce doing it! We need to give Beyonce a nomination! And I think that's more the intention for the song Spirit. To give a nomination for Spirit, it's not necessarily the song itself is good, but it's mainly because of the artist that's behind it. You know, to give people attention, you know, to give the attention and to give the extra credit for Beyonce, to make her say, like, oh, she got a Golden Globe nomination. Oh, she could be competing for Best Original Song. That's how magnificent of an artist that she is. And honestly, this isn't the only one in this category either. I would also say the same thing for Beautiful Ghost as well. Now, keep in mind, maybe this is unfair of me to judge that song because as I am recording this, I haven't heard the song myself. And on top of that, as I am recording this also, the Cats movie has yet to be released. But I do have a feeling that the reason why that song is nominated is not because of the song itself, nor is it the movie, but rather the fact that it is from Taylor Swift. The purpose of giving Taylor Swift a nomination and to make her go and compete for Best Original Song. So I think that's really the big thing, so that the media can go and, like, really advertise this as the Best Original Song category is going to be the fight against Beyonce versus Taylor Swift. Who's gonna win? You know, like, try to do all that battle. But for me personally, it just gives me all the more reason for Into the Unknown to win. I mean, like, honestly, looking at the other ones is like, yeah, I gotta go to Into the Unknown. Maybe for me to be fair, I need to go and listen to I'm Gonna Love Me Again and Stand Up just to give a clear understanding of, like, who's in the competition right over here. But so far, I would really love to see Into the Unknown actually get a win, because it really is a great song on its own. But yeah, overall, that seems to be the big thing with Best Original Song and Best Animated Feature at the Golden Globes. And I would just like to go and conclude this by saying congratulations to all those that received a nomination at this year's Golden Globes. And I wish you all the best when the Golden Globes will be happening on January 5th, 2020. So it's going to be pretty early when it comes out. So early, in fact, that it's going to be, like, the Golden Globes are going to be happening, and then, like, probably, like, more than a week afterwards, that's when they'll do the Oscar nominations. That's when that's gonna come out. So it's surprising that everything with the award season this year, that they're doing it a lot earlier than usual. Okay, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to go and ask you guys, what do you all think about the nominations this year for the Golden Globes? Are there any that you are happy for? Are there some that you feel like are major snubs? Also, we don't have to limit to just the Best Animated Feature category. If there are any other nominations you would like to go and discuss, please feel free to go and share your thoughts on this. Like, in a way, that is kind of the point of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, to hear your share on this. It's not just my thoughts, it's also on yours. Okay. Let's see here. This year, I've decided to swear off award shows. Disney has 60% of the nominations for animated feature, and this shows that sometimes quality for the films don't get to speak for themselves, rather because the big names of a company are begging for attention. This isn't even mentioning that Russian Doll got snubbed for the television category. P.S. Can we meet your puppy? That's not my dog. That's like way off in the distance. I think that's like a few houses away, or like it is far. This ain't my dog. That's just one big dog. But anyways, yeah, I understand that. Like, a lot of people will share your thoughts. Like, there have been plenty of people who have been turned off by the awards, and honestly, the funny thing is that the more people get older, the more that I notice that many of them are dropping the awards and not really caring all that much for stuff like Golden Globes or even the Oscars or anything like that, which really does explain how the viewership really is dropping, because now their significance or what it means to have an award like an Oscar or a Golden Globe, it doesn't necessarily mean much to some people. Except if it's like their favorite film, like last year with Spider-Verse, then suddenly people will magically care for it all over again. Like, suddenly now it has meaning. But then right afterwards, like, they just go back to being meaningless. So I'm definitely sure you are not the only one in this case. Let's see. But and also, I just want to say, on a side note, that with Frozen, with The Lion King, I can understand the frustrations, but with Frozen 2 and Toy Story 4, like, those would get a nomination no matter what, to be fair. I mean, like, if not Frozen 2, if not Toy Story 4, then what else? Let's be real. It's not like, it's not like the award shows are going to ignore the achievements that have been done by Toy Story 4 and Frozen 2. Like, Lion King, I could definitely understand, but with those two, like, honestly, with those two, like, it is to be expected that they would get nominated. It's just The Lion King that made things off balance and a little bit too biased on Disney's side. Let's see here. I'm betting that the winner will either be Toy Story 4 or How to Train Your Dragon 3 will be the winners, since their previous films won't get the won the Golden Globes before. The only reason why Frozen won the Golden Globes was because there was a lot of good animated films. There wasn't a lot of good animated films at the time. Compared to the others, it's nothing. Also, when you mentioned The Marvelous Miss Maisel, I thought The Marvelous Misadventures of Miss Maisel. Well, I was just reading it, so I'm like, this is just through. By the way, I almost forgot to mention that this is all through my source on Variety, so that's why. Let's see now. Since Klaus isn't nominated, I'm gonna say the winner is going to be either Missing Link, so it can have some recognition, or Toy Story 4, because, come on. And for best song, I'm gonna go for I'm Gonna Love Me Again, since, again, come on. But speaking of the lack of recognition, can the Lego Movie 2 please be nominated for one major accolade? The fact that they didn't even get one Annie nomination really says it all. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know about the Lego Movie 2. I guess, really, 2019 really is just bad luck for the Lego Movie. And I think, really, the lack of recognition at the awards for Lego Movie 2, I think it is the final nail to the coffin for the franchise. So I'll just mention that right there. But yeah, one thing that I did forget to mention, though, is actually which one do I want to win for best animated feature? And I'll just say right now, for me, Toy Story 4. That's going to be the one that I really am gonna go and root for, because, my God, it's an amazing achievement. The fact that it managed to know how to make a follow-up after Toy Story 3, and make it really good, like, to keep up with the same standards as some of the other Toy Story films, or at least, like, close enough to it. it's a real marvel. It's it's a miracle in itself. So for me, I'm going to be rooting for Toy Story 4. So yeah, I definitely do agree with this comment. It was like, yeah, I'm going to go for Toy Story 4 because come on. Let's see now. What else do we got here? The director of Honey Boy, which is great and was snubbed, revealed that the Golden Globes don't really care and are in for the fame and money and are worse than the Oscars. The director of Queen and Slim even revealed that they haven't seen yet. So, the Queen of Slim didn't get a nomination. So the Golden Globes are BS. Ad Astra was snubbed when it's way better than the Joker. Well, there are a few things that are probably just your opinion, but there are some elements that I definitely do agree. Like, for me personally, like, I really don't care much about the Golden Globes. Like, I never watch it since. The shows themselves, I find them to be absolutely stupid. And the fact that, like, Ricky Gervais this year is going to be the host again is just another confirmation for me to go, like, yeah, I'm just going to skip it and just wait for the winners to see... Oh, excuse me. Just to see that list, and that's it. But yeah, it is true that with some of the snubs, the Golden Globes are very controversial, especially when, once again, for Best Director, actually, they have failed to recognize any women to be nominated for Best Director, which, yeah, is kind of an unfortunate thing. It's not just an Oscars problem, it's a way bigger issue than the Golden Globes, which, with those controversies, it's no surprise why many people really do disregard the Golden Globe. Like, it really doesn't mean that much, or at least it doesn't mean much compared to the Oscars. So there are some good points that are brought up with that comment. All right, so I'm gonna go and read one more comment in the chat wall before we're gonna go and move on. Let's see. Well, the award season is officially here with the Globes, the Screen Actors Guild, and the Critics' Choice with their animated feature lineup. Okay, so we just have a list. Maybe we'll go into another one. In my opinion, they should have nominated Klaus or Lego Movie 2 instead of the Soulless remake. Other than that, I am happy with the nominations. I am hoping for Toy Story 4 to take home the award. Yeah, you and me both, dude. Okay, now that we got this done, now that we shall save the Golden Globes for next month on January 5th, it is now time that we are going to go and jump onto our next story. And coincidentally enough, we're going to be still sticking with the subject of The Lion King. We're still going to talk about it. And I know that there have been a lot of slams and a lot of hate on The Lion King during our talk of the Golden Globes. But if there is one thing that we cannot deny, rather, whichever side that you are on The Lion King, you can love it, you can hate it, but there is no denying that the visuals are absolutely stunning. The best thing that The Lion King remake has done is the technology in order to go and create photorealistic animals, in order to go and bring them to life in a very convincing and in a very beautiful way. Now, sure, technically the technology itself isn't necessarily suited for a narrative story, mainly because of like the facial expressions. They made it a little too realistic where it looks like they constantly have no emotion throughout, but at least it is a technological marvel, and at least the visuals themselves do deserve some recognition, even in some of the awards. So, if anything, the artists that have worked on the Lion King remake have done a great job. It's just too bad, though, that they are the ones that are getting screwed over. Because this week, right out of the blue, MPC Vancouver, the studio that did the visual effects for the Lion King remake, unexpectedly shut down. There have been a few reports that even came out by stating that it was really out of the blue. Like, one day, the artists and animators and visual effects team, like, they were on their break. They were just having their coffee and stuff like that. But then, suddenly, they just realized, oops, okay, it's closed. Okay, go home. You don't have a job. You're done. No more MPC Vancouver. It's pretty much out. It's over. And, just on a side note, I would like to mention that MPC Vancouver, they have done a lot of films and a lot of great visual effects for movies. And of course, The Lion King is a great example of it, but it's not just that. They have also been quoted to be highly responsible for the redesign of Sonic the Hedgehog for the 2020 movie. In fact, I'm just going to go and read a little bit from my source here in Collider to go a little bit more into the situation. And yes, right over here. It states here, Cartoon Brew reports that motion picture company studio that employed up to 800 artists at one point, likely during the height of production, will shut down, citing increasing external market pressure in Vancouver and more attractive opportunities in other locations. Someone stands to make a nice buck here, but it's probably not the artists themselves. Technicolor owns MPC and will still operate visual effects studios in Montreal, Paris, Adelaide, LA, and Toronto. Or at least they are saying for now. But Vancouver seems to be a big one, and that ended up getting shut down. So the big question here is, what the fridge happened? How is it that a visual effects company that they were once on top of the industry, responsible for making visual effects for some of the biggest movies this year, especially the Lion King remake, which that film ended up making $1.66 billion at the box office, then suddenly in that same year, the studio responsible for the best attribute of that film ended up shutting down. What is it that happened? Now, I did do some thinking, and I did do some research onto the case of what even happened. And it might sound a little bit cliched, but as it states a little bit here, the problem with it is regarding the system. I know it sounds weird, and yeah, like, it sounds like some kind of, like, hipster, hippie kind of comment. It's like, it's the system, man! The system is shutting them down! But it really is the case. It really is the business in Vancouver, or the visual effects business in Vancouver, that's really becoming too much, even for itself, to the point where now visual effects companies are just eating themselves up. Allow me to go and explain, because it can be a little bit complex, but I'll try to break it down easily. Now, as you guys probably know, or as you guys have seen, as time moves on, and nowadays, movies are becoming a lot more dependent on computers. Rather it be to create CGI, or in order to go and create computer enhancements to make the movie look way better than you probably think it is in real life. It's all in order to create major enhancements, in order to add things that you cannot do in real life. And one major place that is actually really popular in terms of making these special effects is actually in Vancouver. Mainly because of the Canadian province of BC, they actually do offer some great tax benefits, so that's why a lot of studios would prefer to do their filmings and their visual effects and their animations in Vancouver, because it's a whole lot cheaper than making it in America, like in LA or in New York or in Florida or in wherever. So it's definitely way cheaper to do it in Vancouver. So because the market is huge in Vancouver, that means they would go and build a lot more visual effects studios, where there would be a lot more that would be popping up. There would be a lot more artists that they could go and hire to go and work on it. So the business would definitely be booming onto the Vancouver industry. However, it is popular. It is true, however, that it can be too popular, where the business may be booming, but the boom can be so big where it could do damage in itself. Because the more visual effects studios are building up, the more competition is about to happen. the more that they would keep on developing these issues, the more that it would get a little bit too complicated. Because when they get competitive, that's when they end up screwing themselves over. Because imagine this scenario. Imagine if the Lion King suddenly, or Disney suddenly comes in with their Lion King remake. And like, imagine back in the time when it was still in production, and they go to Vancouver and said, hey guys, we got a Lion King remake, and we need a lot of visual effects to go and be done. Who's going to help us out? And there's going to be a lot that would really love to do it. They know it's going to give them a lot of attention. It would look amazing in their demo reel. They know that they have what it takes in order to make it. But there are several. But Disney is only looking for one. So, what do? They get into competition and they try to outbid each other. They want to go and ensure that they can offer not only the best quality, but also the fastest and the cheapest. Like, imagine two budding visual effects studios that are up in competition to go and get the rights to create the visuals for the Lion King remake. One would say, okay, we'll offer you $70 million. Okay, it'll cost you $70 million and we'll get to do it for 3 years. But then there's another one that says, we could top that. It will only cost you $50 million and we'll have this all done in 2 years. And then they would keep climbing up, like it's one on top of another, and they'll keep trying to like top each other out in terms of who can offer the best quality in the fastest way possible and the cheapest way possible for the studio. And whoever Disney is the most appealed to, they'll go with that one. And ultimately, the ones who would get screwed over by this is, unfortunately, the animators. It's the artists that are working in those visual effects shops. Because if it's cheaper, then that means less pay for them. If they can deliver it faster than anyone else, then that means they would have to go and work more hours, that they would stay there much more than just 12 hours. And the thing is that they don't get any returns, they don't get any gross, or they don't get any of the profits that would be from movies like The Lion King. They're just there under contract, and they get paid under one bulk from the budget itself, and that's it. And in the case of The Lion King, it is possible that the motion pictures company, that they kind of lowballed with their amounts, or they keep lowballing with their amounts considering the amount of jobs that they would get, especially in Vancouver. And unfortunately, that's what would end up happening, that they don't have enough to go and sustain themselves. They dried up all the money they can have, and thus they're pretty much done. So as you could tell, this is the issue. It's the system itself. It's not necessarily the studio's fault. It's not necessarily because of the business of MPC specifically, but that's just, unfortunately, how it works in Vancouver. And as it even mentions, that's why there are some studios are starting to look outside of Vancouver in order to build their shops, because they know that it is starting to get a little too heated, it is a little bit too competitive, and they're starting to notice that maybe there are some better prices that they could find outside of it. Like, if not in Vancouver, then maybe they'll go and make their visual effects or their animations in Montreal, or in Toronto, or in LA, or in some of the other places, or in Paris even. And we are starting to notice how there are other places that are actually getting more animation work, like Paris, for example. Illumination Entertainment, a lot of their animations actually do come from France or in Paris, or I know that it is in France somewhere. That's kind of the big thing. And even as a Montrealer, I can say that I can see how the business for animation in Montreal is actually booming quite big. In fact, a lot of animations that you have seen were actually done in Montreal, believe it or not. Some of the animation in Klaus was done in Montreal. Captain Underpants, The First Big Adventure, even though that's a DreamWorks film, the animation was delivered in Montreal, which does explain the very low budget of $38 million. So now studios are looking for more areas outside of Vancouver, which can explain why the popularity can be going down in that city in particular, and why it's making business even worse. It unfortunately sucks, but the sad thing is just that's how it is. And I know there is a problem, and yes, there can be a solution to this. Like, technically the solution to this kind of problem would be a little bit simple. It's to go and create a union. It's to go and try to unionize the visual effects artists, the visual effects studios, and the animators, and all those people, to ensure that there is a standard. But unfortunately, in Vancouver especially, there are very few artists that actually are unionized, which pretty much opens the door for these studios to go and really abuse the system, to really lowball the visual effects studios, to make them do whatever they want, to really make them cheap, and to really have the animators work grueling hours to deliver it stupidly fast. You guys may recall the incident with Sausage Party and that entire controversy with how that happened. And that's essentially what happens when you got animators that are not unionized. And as much as people would like to go and blame Nitrogen Studios or Greg Tiernan with that controversy with what happened, some of the blame should be given to Sony Pictures as well, considering that they just want to give out $19 million to produce an entire computer animated feature. Do you realize how ridiculous that sounds? So it's not just Greg Tiernan and Nitrogen. Sony should also be taking the blame for what the animators went through with the production of Sausage Party. And in the case of MPC Hollywood, maybe Disney should take some of the blame. Maybe the studios in general, like maybe Paramount as well, should also take the blame for not helping out MPC Vancouver and to save them from shutting down and stuff like that. But unfortunately, the reality is that's just how it is. And I don't really see anytime soon anybody who's going to really help out with the situation in Vancouver, considering that, like, maybe the big studios can chip in to save this, but they wouldn't want to. Like, they're the ones who are taking advantage of this, and the last thing they would want is for the animators there to take, to be unionized, because if Vancouver ends up unionizing all their animators, I can guarantee you, they're leaving. They're going to ship out, and they're going to look for plenty of other places. Rather it be in Asia, like in China or India, or maybe in other Canadian places like Toronto and Montreal. Like, they will do what they can to avoid having unionized animators to work on their projects. Or at the very least, to make them pay so much. The thing is, the dollar is the most important thing for these studios, and they will do whatever they can in order to save every single cent of it. So that's the unfortunate thing in this situation. That's why, like, unfortunately, like, some people are shocked of the fact that the Lion King remake has been shut down, but in terms of like the business in Vancouver and for visual effects artists, this is all too common for them. This is something that they do see regularly. And also I just want to add on a side note that I really do wish the best of luck for these artists and animators who have lost their jobs at MPC Vancouver, and hopefully they will pick themselves back up and they will find another place quickly in order to have a job. But overall, it's really unfortunate that this does happen. It really, like, I think the big thing is that this moment really does shed a light on how visual effects shops, especially in Vancouver, how they actually do function, and how the life of a visual effects artist or the life of an animator is not all that glamorous or as magical as the stuff that they would produce for the movies or TV shows or whatever. It's kind of a harsh reality that it really sheds a light into an issue with the visual effects industry or with the film industry in general. So with that said, I would like to go into a chat wall, and I would like to know, what do you guys think about this? How do you feel about the whole situation with MPC Vancouver? It's going to be tough for me to know what else to add, but just let me know what you all think. Okay, so okay. This could be, I think, let's see this one. I believe that Hassan Minaj talked about these sort of issues on the Patriot Act, but with gaming design companies. They go through long hours, limited time offs, and when they produce a successful game, there are massive layoffs. It's really sad to see this with visual design companies as well, and I hope everyone gets to unionize and get better treatment soon. Oh, excuse me. Viva la revolucion, you guys. I will be rooting for you. Alright, that's nice to hear. Let's see right now. The Lion King remake is an amazing animated remake that looks like I'm watching a lion documentary. It's such a shame that the company who helped design the visual effects for the film shut down and fired everyone. I really want more from them. Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, again, it's not just the Lion King that they have done. Like, they are majorly responsible for the new Sonic the Hedgehog that we got for the upcoming 2020 movie. The one that, really got a lot of people give a second chance for Sonic the Hedgehog. So it really is unfortunate that out of all the studios in Vancouver, it is a true shame that it has to be this one that had to go. Let's see now. 2019 has been a rough year, not just for the box office, but also in general for animation studios like visual effects, for MPC and KyoAni, but even gaming studios too. Alpha Dream, anyone? Yeah, I know. Trust me, for many people, 2019 can be pretty rough. It's quite, even for me, admittedly, it is quite an emotional roller coaster this year. Oh boy. Let's see now. That's sad. I hope the workers at MPC Studios can find some work and animate another studio. I'm thankful that they have animated for Sonic, but they did animate for Cats. Wait, are these guys responsible for Cats as well? Oh boy. Anyways, you keep mispronouncing MPC like you're saying NPC. I never thought you would trust Cartoon Brew for reporting the studio. On the studio. I bet there are horrible people who are glad the studio is shut down because they hate the film. Well, okay, I didn't, honestly, I don't know. Maybe it could be the case that they're also, actually, hold on a sec. Not really. Because the thing is, the motion pictures company, they have done a lot of movies. They have done several. Even recently, they have done Detective Pikachu. But it may not necessarily be the one in Vancouver that we are talking about. That division could be from another one, in London. The one who had done Cats is probably in Paris or London or in LA or something. So that could be the thing. Yeah, and me mispronouncing MPC with NPC, I mean, to be fair, they both sound so much the same. I mean, you got M and then you got N. You can understand how they sound a little too similar, and I am trying, guys. you gotta cut me some slack. I am trying hard on this. Let's see now. What else do we got? This kind of reminds me of what happened to Avalanche Software, the developer of Disney Infinity. At one point, despite the fact that Disney Infinity was selling big on Toys to Life genre of games, more so than Skylander, the studio shut down and Disney Infinity stopped further production because of business changes, leaving over 300 jobs and $147 million loss. Thankfully, Warner Brothers did revive the studio, but they didn't continue with Disney Infinity, nor did anything since 2017 with the Cars 3 game. Yeah, and that's just, yeah, and I'm sure that's the thing. That's what I'm trying to say. Unfortunately, this is all too common for visual effects studios, for animation studios, and even for gaming studios as well. This is an all too familiar story that happens again and again and again. And I mean, like, there are plenty of other examples, and since we are talking about Disney games as well, like, another example that I can think of is Junction Point, which you guys may know is the studio behind Disney Epic Mickey. Like, right after Epic Mickey 2 was released, and that was a major flop, both the game itself and also in terms of sales, they just decided, like, literally a few months later, like, alright guys, that's it, we're done, get out. Yep, just that's it, and just canceled everything from there. So it's an all too familiar story. Let's see now. I'll go and read one more before we're going to jump onto the next one. I'm really disappointed that this studio ended up shutting down, especially they did an amazing job on both the Lion King remake with the visuals and the new design of Sonic the Hedgehog. And I think that's all we can really ask for. For now, I think we can just hope for the best for these artists and animators, that they can really pick themselves up from there, because, again, it's unfortunate that it happens, but unfortunately, it's all too common that stuff like this happens. Oh, fudge nabbit, now I'm starting to see into, now I'm starting to see in the chat wall, like, the flood of Fs are coming in, because when stuff like this happens, we always know that you're going to have that one person that's going to say, press F to show respect, and then following that is everybody going F, 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 F. You got to press that F key, guys. You always got to press that F key. But anyways, let's go and jump onto the next story that I have for you all. And this one, again, we're going to go into some unfortunate news, but we're not going to be a little bit sad by this. In fact, when most people see this news, they feel a little bit more of schadenfreude from it. That this is a failure that debatably, or pretty much the grand majority of people will say that this is something that it definitely does deserve it. And I'm talking about Playmobil the movie. Now, for those of you who don't know, Playmobil the movie has been released last week. And unsurprisingly, it bombed at the box office. But what people did not expect, however, is the fact that it bombed massively. Like, legendarily even. So much so that it made Arctic dogs look like Frozen 2. That's how bad it did. Because even this article on Variety, it actually states that the flop of Playmobil the movie was so bad, it legit made film history. So overall, it is actually the third worst opening ever for a movie. More specifically, the third worst opening ever for a movie released in over 2,000 theaters. As Playmobil the movie released 2,337 theaters in North America, ended up getting a grand total on its weekend, $668,000. Throughout the whole weekend, that's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it only made $668,000. Cannot even break into the millions. Now, for those of you who are curious, what are the other two that did worse? Well, apparently, one is actually the 2008 animated film Delgo, which is often regarded as one of the biggest animated disasters in history, with $512,000 on its opening. And the real number one is one of those extremely rare movies that broke me, mentally even, is the 2012 fun-filled romp, The Oogie Loves in the Big Balloon Adventure, with $444,000. Yes, Pillow Christ may bless us all, but it certainly did not bless the box office. And That seems to be pretty much the big thing. And yes, by the way, this does make it a massive box office bomb, because if you need a massive oof from this, the budget has been reported on Playmobil the movie to be $75 million. Now, technically, it is true that it did make some money outside of outside of North America. It was actually released in a few places, like in the UK, I believe during August or September, around that time. And it already did make $12.5 million internationally. But as you can tell, North America is not giving it that much of a help. Honestly, it would be amazing if it even breaks like $1 million or two domestically at the box office, but it just ended up becoming a big disaster. So, with that said, what is it that went wrong here? How is it that Playmobil the movie ended up becoming such a major disaster? Well, for that, I actually did think up of 3 specific reasons onto why is it that Playmobil the movie ended up flopping so much. And I'll start off with number 1, and I think this is the one that really is the most regrettable decision, and I don't know if this is because of like the studios that were involved with it and stuff like that, but either way, it ended up really killing this movie, and that is the delay. Now, you guys may recall that originally, Playmobil the movie was supposed to be released sometime either in August or September. I think it was like somewhere between the two. I think it was like somewhere at the end of August. Now, technically, that would have been a pretty solid release date because it was during the end of the summer and there weren't really much animated films that were surrounding it. There was the Angry Birds movie 2 before it, and then after that there was, what was it? There was Abominable. So it was in a good position where it would get at least some recognition. But somehow, one way or another, maybe it's because of like studio changes or something like that, but it ended up not happening. It ended up getting delayed. And so STX had to come in and they decided to go and put it at the beginning of December, which was a massively regrettable decision because it is way too close between some serious competition. Where beforehand, there is Frozen 2. And Frozen 2, as you could tell, like, it is dominating at the box office. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised by this weekend, it would actually end up getting $1 billion already. So in terms of the animation competition, everybody is just putting their focus on Frozen 2. But even you might argue, well, what about the holiday season? Because that's coming up. Well, even at that, there are other major movies that are getting much more attention than Frozen 2. Like right now, we got Jumanji The Next Level that just got released, and already that's getting some major attention. It's already on its way to becoming a big hit at the box office, just like its predecessor. And then, even the week after that, it's going to be the final Skywalker saga movie, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. And that's going to be something that will get a lot of attention when that is going to be coming out in theaters. So there really is no room for this movie to even get noticed. So from there, it was put in possibly the worst spot possible for this kind of film. So as you could tell, the delay really did screw it over massively. Number 2, though, because of this delay, that means that there have already been some people who did watch it. Now, the delay only applies to North America, and as I stated before, places like the UK have already seen Playmobil the movie. But from there, since they have already seen it, bad word of mouth quickly circulated. There have already been people who have reviewed Playmobil the movie and already have expressed massively negative reviews. But especially, the big thing that they have mentioned is the fact that it is a blatant Lego Movie ripoff. Now, there is a fine line between what is a Lego Movie ripoff and then seeing for yourself if it is a Lego Movie ripoff. Because by looking at the trailers and you look at the concepts, yeah, you could just safely assume that, oh, it looks like it's just copying the Lego Movie. Not interested. That's one thing. But then when you would go and see it yourself, that is another. That's another. Because yes, it is a Lego Movie ripoff, but you have no idea how much of a Lego Movie ripoff it is. It is absolutely shameless in the way that it copies like every single element. It's almost identical. And it makes it so shameless in the way that it just prominently displays itself as a full-on ripoff. It's just a big budgeted star-studded ripoff. That even though, yeah, there are some recognizable celebrities, like you got Jim Gaffigan in there, you got Daniel Radcliffe, but it doesn't matter. In its core, it's just a really bad movie that's just not worth anyone's time. Like, technically, some people might want to see it, like, in the veins of the Emoji Movie, just to ironically watch it on how bad it is. And, you know, maybe ironically get some enjoyment by how bad it is, but not even that. It's just the fact that it is so much of a ripoff of the Lego Movie really leaves a massive bad taste in your mouth. So that's why this massive negative, you know, the negative word of mouth that's already been passed around for months, it already established a mindset onto people thinking that, no, I'm not going to see it, it's not worth my time, it's bad. And that ended up really screwing itself over. And then you got the third reason. And some people may say that it might sound like the harshest of them all. And that actually is, it's freaking Playmobil. Who the fridge cares about Playmobil? Now, yes, it is true that when you would go to Europe, especially in places like in France, in Germany, maybe in the UK, the Netherlands, in Poland, or whatever, in many European countries, they're definitely a big fan of Playmobil. Playmobil is a huge thing, so much so that there are even Playmobil theme parks in Europe. But in North America, no one cares about Playmobil. Like, even the toys themselves, they think they are just Lego Movie ripoffs. Well, not Lego Movie ripoffs. Like, they think that the Playmobil toys are just Lego ripoffs. That they're just doing the same thing as Legos, but in a way that's less appealing. They actually do look like a bunch of knockoffs whose theming are not necessarily that interesting. Because let's be real, with Playmobil, they don't really have that much fascinating themes like, oh, you can be a Viking. Oh, you can be a knight. Oh, you can be an Egyptian. It's just like all these generic copyright-free theming that they would just go to, and it just looks boring to North Americans. They don't care about it. Like, maybe there are some that are aware, but have you ever met someone from North America that is a major Playmobil collector? That they are a massive nut for Playmobil, that they need to go and buy the entire sets, and they have this prominent display in their room, or they got a garage filled with all these different Playmobiles? Not really. I mean, I'm not saying there isn't, but they are extremely rare. Playmobil, I can say, is an extremely niche market, where already people have a mindset that they look like Lego ripoffs. And the fact that Playmobil is blatantly ripping off the Lego Movie really does enforce that mindset, putting in a lot less appeal onto the film itself and make less people want to go and see it. So it really is a combination of those three major factors. And who knew that they all end up leading to one of the biggest animated disasters ever, where they couldn't even make $1 million at the box office, or just on its opening weekend. Like, it's honestly incredible at that point. And honestly, for me, in my opinion, like, since I have seen the film, of course, and I have reviewed it and stuff like that, yeah, honestly, it is very well deserved. But I will say that I am absolutely shocked because, like, this year, not too long ago even, I have reported on how Arctic Dogs had one of the worst openings ever for an animated film, or at least for a movie released in so many theaters. And even Arctic Dogs, like, made multiple times more than Playmobil the movie. And keep in mind, guys, with Arctic Dogs, that thing came out of nowhere. That thing barely had a single slice of advertising anywhere. Like, maybe a few pop-up commercials on YouTube, like maybe a trailer or two, but literally that's it. And that film managed to make so much more than what I think Playmobil would ever make. Like, I don't think ever that Playmobil will even have a box office, like a total domestic box office that would be bigger than Arctic Dogs' opening. That's how I think that's how bad it is. But that, like, it's like, honestly, on that regard, it shocks me. But in terms of the film itself, yeah, it definitely is well deserved. For the kind of movie that it is, the kind that it is a blatant ripoff, it is such a corporately driven movie that you could tell that it is just, fueled by these executive decisions that just make the movie worse and worse and worse and worse. It's just, that's what you, honestly, I feel like, I just look at the film and I say, well, that's what you freaking get. You know, that's what you get for all this. Like, that's what you get for just being such a blatant ripoff of the Lego movie. And I see that there is one person writing in the comments an interesting fact about the Playmobil the movie. Bob Persichetti, sorry, his name is often difficult to say. I'm so sorry, Bob. Bob Persichetti was supposed to direct the film for Sony Pictures Animation. However, Sony sent him to direct the Spider-Verse since they failed to acquire the film rights. Wow, possibly the greatest thing that Sony Pictures Animation has ever done. Imagine this. Like, there are already people that are still salty at Sony Pictures Animation for allegedly canceling Popeye in favor of the Emoji Movie. Can you imagine if they scrapped Spider-Verse in favor of making their own Playmobil movie? Oh my god. That would be so bad. Oh my god. And I remember reading that at some point, but oh god, that would truly be a nightmare and a half. And I'm so, honestly, I'm so glad for both Bob and Sony that they decided to go and stick with Spider-Verse instead, because oh boy, like that really would have put a massive bad name onto Sony Animation. Like, wow, man. But yeah, overall, I guess there's no other comment that I could say about this other than, well, yeah, we've seen a new animation record here, and that's what you freaking get, Playmobil. Like, that's gonna be your legacy right now. That's gonna be on your freaking record, that you're just a Lego movie ripoff, and that you're gonna be, like, yeah, that you're a Lego movie ripoff, and that you had one of the worst openings ever. In fact, this actually just gave me an idea. Oh my god, that would actually make a great potential video. Like like just imagine this. This is gonna be like way in the future, just keep in mind, but honestly, this would be a great idea to do like an editorial video, like to make, oh my god, yes. That would be so fascinating, actually. Oh my god. Alright, but that's gonna be for the future though. But still, there's a lot of material that I can use for this, so oh, this is gonna be quite fascinating. Okay. But anyways, with all that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to know, what do you all think about the disaster of Playmobil the movie? Do you think the film deserves to be this much of a flop? Do you think it doesn't deserve to be a disaster? If you have seen Playmobil the movie, what do you think about it? Let me know what you all think right now. Okay, so Let's see here. Wow, if you can't even get a full million back on your opening weekend, you really screwed up big time. I've not seen Playmobil yet, and I don't intend to, but this is a big L on the company. But I personally think this flopping came from the idea that the filmmakers were just running around screaming, "Quick! We need to make the Lego Movie without any of the charm, surprises, innovation, wit, effort, or suspense of the Lego Movie!" I don't think they're... No, honestly, it's like... They didn't intentionally to make it bad, I'm sure. They just don't... Like, I don't think there's really much malicious intent, but rather more just... really stupid intentions as well. It's like, make the Lego Movie. Okay, why is it successful? I don't know, it just is. Just do it! I think it's more like driven with that thing. Alright, let's see now. Honestly, if it wasn't such an obvious ripoff of the Lego Movie or cash grab in general, I would feel kind of bad for it. Several YouTubers saw it while being the only one in theaters, and on opening night in the US. They even gave tickets at $5 to Saberspark, and he was still the only one who was in the theater that day. I'm trying too hard to be relevant, but it's trying too hard. Sorry, not you, but it's trying too hard to be relevant, but it still can't hide the fact that this is a commercial for the toy no child is asking for or would be disappointed to receive as a gift. Yeah, this seems like one of those that, like, you ask for your grandma for a present, you ask for your grandma for some Legos, but your grandma can't find it. It's like, oh, well, this looks like Lego, so I'll give it to little Timmy instead. It sounds like that kind of, yeah, that's what Playmobil sounds like. The kind of gift that it's kind of what you wanted, but it's actually not that, and it's kind of like an inferior version of that as well. It's just not that's what Playmobil is. It's just a bit like, for North Americans at least, it's a big bag of disappointment. All right, let's see. As the great Prince Zuko once said, "That's rough, buddy." I'm not surprised, however. The Lego Movie epidemic is dying off, and Playmobil movie shows that. I'm not gonna be bothered seeing this film. I'll be supporting original animated films like Klaus and I Lost My Body in the comfort of my own home. Great for you, dude. And it really does show. It really does prove a previous point that I have stated, because I said before that the Lego Movie franchise is pretty much dead, and it's not just the Lego Movie 2 that has proven that throughout 2019. But when a franchise is dead, when even its ripoffs can't even try to succeed in cashing in. So really, it's like, the Lego Movie at this point as a franchise is a lost cause. And that's why we're no longer going to see any more Lego Movie spin-offs or a Lego Movie 3 or anything like that. Like, even Warner Brothers has given up on it, move on, and they decided, okay, instead our next Lego Movie is going to be Funko Pops. Because why the fridge not? Alright, let's see now. Let's see, what else do we got? As rough as this year has been for the box office, it really does showcase, for the most part, that people are justifiably tired and burned out from franchises and copycats. They have woken up and seen through the safe corporation strings that further embolden South Park's message about marketing to China. Oh, you do bring up a very strong point there, too, there. That is actually a great point. Let's see now. I didn't even see any ads for Playmobil whenever I watch Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network. I just see trailers in theaters. Even Arctic Dogs had TV spots. STX Films also paid $3 million on advertising, and they told theaters to sell Playmobil tickets for just $5 no matter the age. This is the second animated flop in a row for STX since Ugly Doll, so I don't think they will release many animated films in the future. Yeah, that's also another major problem. That's also another reason why it flopped. It's mainly because of the distributor, STX Entertainment, because they're not lucky. You know, it's not just animated films that they're not lucky with, especially when they've released Ugly Dolls, and that became a major flop as well. But it's also because, like, it's just movies in general. They, like, honestly, they have just released flop after flop and after flop after flop. I think the only major hit that they did legitimately have is just Bad Moms, and that's it. Other than that, they would just pick something up and they would become box office disasters. Not just with Playmobil, but they also did that with the Happy Time Murders, even though that film kind of was a massive disappointment. But still, STX Entertainment is also an additional factor to the stuff that I have mentioned. So there really is like a combination of reasons of how it became the third worst opening ever in cinema history. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna go and read two more before we move on. I'm saying this once and only once. It deserves to bomb. It's just so disgusting on how it rips off an amazing movie. The humor, the story, not all the story, the characters, the animation style. I can't sit through the movie once without making at least one Lego movie comparison. And even Arctic Dogs made more money than this thing. And the critics, well, the critics aren't wrong. That might be another reason why people won't see it. Yeah, exactly. It's like I said, the bad word of mouth. That critics have already seen it, and people have already seen it, and they hate it so far. Let's see. Well, let's go with this one. I knew this movie would bomb, but I didn't think this movie would bomb this hard. I thought Arctic Dogs was performing bad, but Playmobil the movie performed much worse. Holy crap. This movie definitely got what it deserves, but I do wonder what will happen next for STX at this point since they distribute the film in North America. Yeah, I'm just gonna say, it's not looking good for STX Entertainment. How it's gonna do in the future, we're just gonna have to wait and see. Alright, so, with that said, I know that we have gotten a lot of anger, and we've got a lot of schadenfreude, and you know, like, a lot of the bad emotions have been out of the way. And very rarely so far in this episode that we have discussed about a movie worth praising. You know, there's something to actually be happy about, that a movie has done a great achievement. So maybe with this story, we could change that a little bit. And considering that we are at the end of the year, it is also time for the Library of Congress to add more movies, 25 movies to be specific, for the National Film Registry. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm just going to go and read from my source here on Time. As it states here, for a movie to be a part of the National Film Registry, the selections were announced Wednesday for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant and reflect and emphasize on increased representation. And ever since then, ever since 1988, the big reason for the National Film Registry is to pretty much collect the best of films in general, not just movies, but also short films as well. The ones that have made the biggest impact in the industry, the ones that really did made a name for themselves to really define the art of their craft. And this year, we have gotten a variety of things. We have gotten some classic movies here, like we got some like really old stuff, including Immigrants Landing at Ellis Island in 1903. We also got Employees Entrance, that was from 1933, and we got Body and Soul from 1925, and that's just a few examples. We also got some major Oscar winners as well. Amadeus from 1984, and also Platoon actually received an addition to the National Film Registry. And then, of course, we also got some cult favorites as well. Stuff that really made a big cultural impact, especially for gathering so much fans. This is especially the case for Clerks and Purple Rain, the movie starring Prince, or the artist formerly known as Prince, or stuff like that. I don't know. We'll just call him Prince for now. But there are also two films that are Disney classics that are added onto the mix, where we got Old Yeller that's added in, and the one that we are going to be focusing on for this story, the 1959 Disney animated classic, Sleeping Beauty. And for those of you who want to know the 25 movies that have been added this year to the National Film Registry, I'll just read them one by one. Again, from my source here on Time, it states that the movies are Amadeus, Becky Sharp, Before Stonewall, Body and Soul, Boys Don't Cry, Clerks, Coal Miner's Daughter, Immigrants Landing at Ellis Island, Employee's Entrance, Fog of War, Gaslight, George Washington Carver at Tuskegee Institute, Girlfriends, I Am Somebody, The Last Waltz, My Name is Una, A New Leaf, Old Yeller, The Phoenix City Story, Platoon, Purple Rain, Real Women Have Curves, She's Gotta Have It, Sleeping Beauty, and Zoot Suit. So those are all the movies, and the one animation edition that we've gotten this year is Sleeping Beauty. And what coincidental timing, considering that this year is also the film's 60th anniversary, so it really does fit perfectly. And when you do look back onto Sleeping Beauty, it really is one of those films where you feel like it is about time that it does get some recognition, because Sleeping Beauty definitely is one of those movies where it really had to climb up its way in order to become a classic, because I would actually say, like, Sleeping Beauty actually is the Iron Man of its day, where, like, it was Iron Man before Iron Man, where it began as a flop. Critics didn't necessarily like it all that much, but then as time moved on, there have become more and more appreciation for the feature, not just in terms of the artistry that's put into it, but also, like, as a movie itself, that it is a pretty enjoyable Disney movie. And then as time moved on, it ranked up to the levels where it did become a major Disney classic, where now a lot of people consider it to be major Disney royalty, right up there with Snow White, with Cinderella, with Peter Pan, with Pinocchio, with Bambi, with Fantasia, it truly stands as a very significant Walt Disney classic. And when you do look at the feature and what it has done for Disney animation as well, like, there are a lot of ways on how Sleeping Beauty is a very significant animated film for Disney. And probably the biggest one to go and note about Sleeping Beauty is the fact that it is the last animated feature from Disney, at least, that would be hand painted. That would be that would be hand painted in terms of making their cells. Or, yeah, I think that's the term I was looking for. For the last Disney animated feature to have hand-painted cells. Because it really was a beautiful craft back in the day, where they would go and create these cells by hand in order to have the best result to come out. But then, by the time that 101 Dalmatians came in, that's when the Xerox process started to happen, and now people don't have to make their cells by hand. They could just directly take the animator's drawings, and they could just create cells like that. They could just go and have it based on the drawings and have a machine immediately put in the lines, and they can immediately put in the colors in order to do the job for them. So, and it really is unfortunate, because, like, I guess you could say the Xerox process really is a controversial change up in terms of the animation process at Disney. Well, I wouldn't say controversial. I would say more debatable. There are some people who really love it, and then there are some that are a little iffy, where they look at something like The Sword in the Stone or the 101 Dalmatians, and, you know, they look a little bit too messy, where, like, the lines are just protruding everywhere, and it looks like the machines don't really got it right just yet to fully do justice to the animation, or to have it be represented onto the movie, to have that clean and clear look like how it was done back, like, with Lady and the Tramp, with Peter Pan, or with Sleeping Beauty. But with Sleeping Beauty, it was the last one to do so. And I can definitely tell you, in terms of hand-painted cells, it truly was a grand finale for Disney, because a lot of people state this, that debatably the film itself, like, they could be a little iffy on it, say what you will, but many people do regard it as some of the greatest Disney animation that they have ever built, that they have put onto it. And even with the movie itself, the best way to describe it is that this is the most like a fairy tale coming to life. And especially with this, with Sleeping Beauty, it really does have all the classic components of a classic fairy tale, with fairies, fighting a dragon at the end, a prince that is gonna go and save the princess, and a beautiful princess that is kind and caring, that people admire. You know, it has all the components for a memorable fairy tale, and it does so much more debatably than some of the other fairy tale based Disney films, or at least from back in its day, like compared to Cinderella or compared to Snow White. So with Sleeping Beauty, they really went all out with it. And not just, and not just narratively, but also with the art style as well, where it really does look like an art piece from medieval times, just coming to life using the help of Disney magic. And the biggest help from that is regarding the artwork of Ivan Earl. His backgrounds are like, they have this symmetry, they have like a lot of significant shapes onto them, and it just like, they are just gorgeous to look at. And that's probably the big thing about Sleeping Beauty, is that it, like, regardless of how you feel about the movie itself, regardless of how you feel about the characters, the animation is just absolutely beautiful in every way possible, even with the effects that are built up, with the characters, how they are designed, and even like with what they do with the animation itself, with the personality animation, to really bring these characters, especially with the fairies, with Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather, to distinct their personalities, or especially like probably one of the biggest highlights of the animation, the big battle at the end of Maleficent turned into a dragon versus Prince Philip. It was an epic, like, it truly was an epic moment where it really does burst out with not just with the animation, but also with the colors and just like the epic grand scale that they've presented everything. And since then, Disney has used this kind of as a template on how to go and produce their animated features since then. And you could tell how there have been a lot of animated films afterwards, like with Beauty and the Beast, or with Lion King, or with Little Mermaid, or with Aladdin, or even with some of the modern ones like Frozen or with Moana, that they would take inspiration from Sleeping Beauty. And even in terms of the characters also, how they have gotten some major significance as well. Especially with Maleficent. If there is one character that really gathered the most popularity from that film, is Maleficent, considering that many people would consider her as one of, if not the greatest Disney villain of all time. And you could definitely tell in the movie how she is so menacing, how she, how like she has like this dark approach where whenever she's in the scene, it really is unsettling, or there's some bad things that are gonna happen no matter what. And it's not just with the beautiful animation that is delivered by Mark Davis, but also through the great performance of Eleanor Audley, who already had experience from playing as a Disney villain. Like, she was already Lady Tremaine, but then you also got to add her in as Maleficent as well, and it just delivers just beautiful results. It turned out to be absolutely, it turned out to be absolutely great for the movie. So it's not just your typical fairy tale. It's a fairy tale that is effective. Yes, there are a lot of the classic components, and maybe the story can be a little bit predictable, but the emotions and the engagement really does work. And that's how, even after 60 years, people have gotten really invested into it. And how even though at the start, even though when it was first released, it turned out to be a flop, it wouldn't be much later when it gained a lot more significance, and it really made a huge impact in Disney history, where now not only Maleficent has a prominent place in the villains lineup, but also Princess Aurora as well, or Briar Rose, or however you want to call her, that she has a very prominent place among the Disney princesses, where she was one of the originals, like back in the days of Walt Disney, alongside Cinderella and Snow White. Where you could definitely, like, if you go into Disneyland or if you go into the Disney parks, you could definitely see the influence of Sleeping Beauty. And that is why the film itself has a huge cultural impact, not just within Disney, but also just within the art of animation itself, where it has now become probably the most prominent example of how to interpret medieval art onto cinema, how to interpret it onto animation. And even nowadays, like, the relevancy of Sleeping Beauty, probably one of the best examples where you could see how it's stronger than ever is with the Maleficent movies. Say what you will. For me, I thought they're just a piece of crap, but they are a massive hit. Like, they do bring back the relevancy and the attention to the Sleeping Beauty films, and you could see the influence with Angelina Jolie as Maleficent. You could tell through the aesthetic of the movie, the art direction, how it shares some similarities to Sleeping Beauty and how they want to stay true to the animated film. So honestly, this is one of those additions where it feels like it's about freaking time that they do add in Sleeping Beauty, because it really is one of Disney's most important animated features. It may not seem like it at first when it came out, but there really is a lot of great history. And I just want to say, on a side note, personally, this is why I am so excited to get back into making Animation Look Back Disney for Part 4, so that I can get into the history of Sleeping Beauty. So, little spoiler alert, yes, by the time when Part 4 is going to be coming out, like, the first thing I'll talk about is going to be Sleeping Beauty, and I know that's going to be a really big part in that video in particular, and I cannot wait to really dive into the history. I got my Blu-ray all set and ready for it. I can't wait to dive into the behind the scenes of it, so I know it's going to be a really fascinating story. But yeah, overall, I feel very happy that it's about time that it has been added into the National Film Registry, and it really is a movie that truly does deserve it, considering the impact that it has done, not just for the Disney company, but also for movies in general, and for art of animation. So congratulations to Sleeping Beauty, and congratulations to the 24 other movies that have been added this year to the National Film Registry. They definitely do deserve it. And it's, for some cases, especially Sleeping Beauty, it's about time. Now, with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask, what do you all think about Sleeping Beauty being added to the National Film Registry? Is it a film that you feel like deserves to be added? Is there another movie you would like to see added to the National Film Registry in the future? Let me know what you all think. Let's see here. The castle in Disneyland was given the name Sleeping Beauty Castle, although it doesn't really resemble the film version. The castle has a walkthrough with diorama scenes for the film. Yes, the world discussed 3 versions of the walkthrough attraction. Exactly! And that's also another big significance, is the fact that the castle at Disneyland is named after Sleeping Beauty. And on top of that, like, it's not just the one at Disneyland, or at least that version. I believe also the one in Disneyland Paris is also named after Sleeping Beauty, but they went with the French version. It's like comme Le Château de la Belle Dormant or something like that. Yeah, you know, but that's kind of the big thing, is that, you know, when a movie has a big impact, when Disney would go and name their castle after the freaking movie. Like, we got freaking, like, you got Sleeping Beauty Castle. I think that really does say a lot how Sleeping Beauty itself has made quite an impact on Disney. Let's see now. What else do we got here? I am happy to see that a great movie and a legendary villain are legitimately acknowledged and recorded in cinema history. Yes, definitely. I thought maybe Snow White should have been included instead, knowing the fact that it is the first American feature-length animated movie. Okay, let me tell you something. It has been a long time ago that Snow White has been added in. I know it's not added this year, but I know it has already been there. I think it was probably one of the first additions that they gotta go. It's like, okay, we gotta add some animated things. What can we add? Snow White? Okay, let's do that. So you know that it's gotta be added in. Okay, so yeah, Snow White is already in there, so you don't have to worry about that. Let's see. I would love to see Nightmare Before Christmas or South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut in the registry in the future. That is a pretty good point. Oh, well, I don't know about South Park. Maybe that would that would take a bit of time. I don't know, like, that one I could be a little bit iffy about if the National Film Registry would go and add that in. But I will say Nightmare Before Christmas, that could be a contender. That could be something that is a strong consideration, I would say. Definitely in there. Someone is suggesting Jungle Book as well. That could be a maybe too. Let's see. Is there anything else? Nightmare Before Christmas has a huge cult following. Yeah, and I mean, like, it could be because of the cult. Yeah, it could be like the cult following aspect, considering that this year they did add, as I stated, they did add it in Clerks, and they did add it in Purple Rain, and those are two major cult favorites. So maybe because of that, The Nightmare Before Christmas could be added in. Let's see now. I'm glad to see it. It is there now. Sleeping Beauty may not be my absolute favorite Disney movie, but it is very charming. And when a character like Maleficent is so iconic that she's a prominent villain in Kingdom Hearts, then it's safe to say that Sleeping Beauty is influential enough for the film registry. Well, there you have it, folks. And some people are saying, well, how about Pinocchio? I think it's already in. Lion King, I think that's in as well. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. There are, like, I already see a lot of people, like, adding in, like, well, what about this Disney movie or this Disney movie? And I'll say right now, there are some that I would say, like, well, especially, like, the classics, like Pinocchio or Dumbo or Bambi. That's already in. Lion King, I think it's already in. If not, then it'll probably be in soon. But anyways, with all that said, let us now go and jump onto the grand finale. Yes, it is going to be time where we are going to be capping it off with our final story. And I hate to end it off on a bit of a sad note, but unfortunately, this is something that did happen last week. And this has been a highly requested story for me to go and cover. But, I mean, as a Muppet fan, I kind of have no choice but to go and share this as well, because this really was a pretty unfortunate moment. Yes, even the chat wall, like, they have been repeating it again and again and again, wondering when is it going to happen. But yes, now it is time that we are going to go and discuss it. Let us talk about Caroll Spinney. For those of you who don't know or haven't heard, Caroll Spinney has unfortunately been announced to be deceased. It is stated here that he has been passed away at the age of 85 after living with dystonia. Now, by the way, this is all through my source here, once again, coming from Variety. And for those of you who don't know who Caroll Spinney is actually the legendary puppeteer who had been working with Sesame Street ever since the very beginning. Now, he has done a lot of different puppets throughout the years, but there are two characters that he has worked with that has gained a lot of popularity. In a way, you could say that they have gained some great life on themselves. Number one being Oscar the Grouch, and number two being Big Bird. And he has literally worked on those characters ever since the inception of Sesame Street, ever since 1969, where he worked alongside Jim Henson in order to develop these characters and to go and help bring them to life. and he had been working on them it wasn't until recently where he decided to stop performing as the characters, rather it be as Big Bird or Oscar the Grouch, where he would then have no choice but to go and pass on the torch. I believe I think this article here did this article even mention about who passed on? Well, okay, well, or what I can do is if you guys can help me out on this, can you help me out explain who is the successors of Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch? If you can help me out, give out that information, that would be great. I think Matt Vogel is the new Big Bird, and I believe someone, yeah. Oh, Matt Vogel, yeah, we got, okay, I knew Matt Vogel was involved, and I believe he is the new Big Bird, and Eric Jacobson is the new Oscar the Grouch. And so far, there have been no complaints about the new characters. And so far, they have done a very impeccable job and a beautiful job to be Caroll Spinney's successor, especially when Caroll Spinney himself had been helping them out in order to bring these characters to life and to pass on the torch to follow their legacy. In fact, let me just read you a little bit from my source here on Variety, explaining his works on the characters. Spinney was with Sesame Street from the beginning in 1969 and continued working as Big Bird and Oscar through 2018, though he stopped performing inside the Big Bird costume in 2015 when it became too physically demanding. He first met Jim Henson in 1962 at a puppeteering festival, but the idea of working for him did not come until they reconnected at another festival in 1969. As Big Bird and Oscar, he conducted several orchestras, including the Boston Pops, across the United States, China, and Australia. He has received 5 Daytime Emmy Awards working as Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch. And he even he got nominated for a Grammy Award for the album Merry Christmas from Sesame Street. And he even received in 2006, he has received the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Lifetime Achievement Award. And on top of that, he even performed on some movies as well, where he was in The Muppet Movie, The Great Muppet Caper, Big Bird in China, and Follow That Bird. And he even appeared in The Night at the Museum, Battle for the Smithsonian as Oscar the Grouch. And on top of that, in 2014, there was even an entire documentary dedicated to Caroll Spinney, which was done by Dave LaMattina and Chad N. Walker, that is called I Am Big Bird, The Caroll Spinney Story. We even got a few quotes coming from some people that are very close to him. We got a quote from Sesame Workshop, the company that has done Sesame Street so far, and they have stated, his enormous talent and outsized heart were perfectly suited to playing the larger-than-life yellow bird who brought joy to generations of children and countless fans of all ages around the world. And his lovably contagious grouch gave us all permission to be cranky once in a while. We also got another quote here that's going to be coming from Sesame Street performer Bob McGrath, in which he stated in the documentary, he managed to learn to speak directly to the hearts of probably anything from 2-year-olds to 5, 6, 7-year-olds, and to grown-ups, as a matter of fact. It was most apparent to us the first time we got out and really performed for kids. Anytime you mentioned Big Bird, the place erupted. It was like a mini Woodstock. And so we even got a quote from the co-founder of Sesame Street and a longtime colleague and friend of Caroll, Joan Gans Cooley, stating, Caroll Spinney's contribution to Sesame Street are countless. He not only gave us Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch, he gave us so much of himself as well. We at Sesame Workshop mourn his passing and feel an immense gratitude for all he has given to Sesame Street and to children around the world. And I gotta say, of course, not surprisingly, I am definitely one of those kids that grew up with Sesame Street. When I was a child, there have been times when I would watch Sesame Street, and I will say, like, this is especially the case with Big Bird. There are very few things in this world that are as pure and innocent as Big Bird. And from the stories that I have heard about Caroll Spinney, about who he is as an individual, he really, like, he is Big Bird, basically. Big Bird exists, or Big Bird existed. He was absolutely real. It's just he wasn't a bird. He was a man named Caroll Spinney. And and I've heard a lot of beautiful stories that this is a guy with a kind heart. And to play a character like Big Bird, you gotta be a character with such a kind heart. A sweet, innocent soul that is still learning about life itself, but always wide-eyed and always curious about everything that's around them, and wants to learn about how to be kind and what they can contribute to make the world a better place. That is essentially who Caroll Spinney is. And funny enough, he would also be very well known as a character that is kind of the opposite of Big Bird, funny enough, with Oscar the Grouch, some guy who is just always cranky. And as this Variety article stated, that there are times when it's okay that you can be cranky. I don't know why I can't really get that word out of my mouth, but it is okay that you can be grouchy at some points. It's okay to be a grouch. It's okay that sometimes you can be negative at times, and it can be a little gloomy. And it shows a little side of Caroll Spinney as well. Like, not a despicable grouch, but a bit of a likable grouch, where Oscar is pretty much a vehicle for Caroll Spinney to pretty much express a side of him that he couldn't do as Big Bird, where sometimes it can be fun at times when you could be a little bit of a grouch. And as a critic myself, I can really attest to that, definitely. Where sometimes you want to be like Big Bird, you want to be happy, you want to be pure, you want to be innocent, but then you could be Oscar the Grouch, and you could just say, okay, screw this thing and screw everything. But with Caroll Spinney, he definitely was a kind soul, and it definitely is unfortunate to hear his passing. Now, this is not to say that he left us way too soon. I mean, he definitely did so much to us, and you could definitely tell the signs in recent years that he was getting a little bit older, that he could no longer be performing the same way that he used to. Especially starting with his performance with Big Bird, that he could no longer physically go and do it. And then by 2018, he ultimately decided to retire and ultimately pass on the torch to Matt Vogel and Eric Jacobson to play as those characters, which to this day, they are still playing them beautifully. And it's almost unnoticeable that it isn't even Caroll Spinney anymore that's doing it. That Oscar the Grouch and Big Bird are still alive, maybe through different actors, but it's still them. It's still exactly like how they are, regardless if it's either Matt or Eric or if it's Caroll, they are still the same lovable characters. Their legacy is still alive. And going back onto Caroll, yes, it is noticeable that he has been getting older and that he has been getting a little bit more sick, but I guess it had to happen eventually. And I mean, at 85, it is a pretty solid age to go on. And especially as someone like Caroll Spinney, even though he is only known for playing a few significant characters on Sesame Street, he has created some of the most iconic characters on television in general, or two of the biggest icons in television history, period. We all know who Big Bird is. We all know who Oscar the Grouch is. And we've all, I'm sure as children, we've all had very fond memories of like those characters and seeing their adventures, like rather it be through one of the episodes or even like, you know, having some heartfelt moments watching Big Bird in Follow That Bird. And I remember, like, I haven't watched that film until like I was much older, like until I was in my mid-20s, and that thing was definitely something that, yeah, some people could say, oh, that movie's for children, but that still was a show where like, or a movie in particular where it definitely does pull on your heartstrings. Like, oh my god, like, good luck watching that film without shedding a tear. Oh my god. But still though, with Caroll Spinney, honestly, with his passing, like, you know, the funny thing is that you do have to be a little bit like Big Bird at times, where you do have to go and look into the bright side of things. And with me, like, it is sad to see someone like Caroll Spinney go, but for me, I feel like there is a bit of a bright side to it, where now he's going, you know, now he's going back and really like, he must be having the time of his life wherever he's going, because now there's a major reunion going on. He's back with Mr. Hooper, and especially, like, probably the best reunion is the fact that he has returned with his old buddy Jim. That he can finally get back together with Jim, catch up on like what's been happening, and he could tell his stories of how he has been with Oscar the Grouch and Big Bird. And I think that's the way that I like to see it, to, you know, to be like Big Bird and to look into the bright side, into the positive aspects of it, of when someone is passing, is that they're going back to meet up with old friends, to meet up with Jim Henson, to meet, you know. And it's unfortunate. Yeah, we're never going to see him perform as Oscar or Big Bird again, or any of his characters, or we won't get to meet him again, but we know he's in a better place. We know he's in an area where he definitely does deserve it. You know, he has definitely given us such a beautiful and wonderful legacy, and shows us how there are still some good things in this world. There are still some beautiful things. And I know in 2019, like, it's been pure madness and stuff like that. And I know there's been a lot of disappointments. I know there have been so many broken hearts, especially after what happened with the UK election and stuff like that. But there are still some pure things that have happened in this world, and Caroll Spinney was definitely one of them. And I mean, it's not like he is entirely gone. Again, his legacy is still passed on to Eric Jacobson and Matt Vogel, and so far they're doing a beautiful job bringing back still performing as Big Bird, still performing as Oscar the Grouch. They're still doing some great things. You know, they're still doing a beautiful job with Caroll Spinney's characters. So to Caroll, may he rest in peace, and may his legacy forever fly as much as Big Bird can. I just need to give that little piece. Oh my god, I feel like I'm getting a little bit emotional. If I continue, I feel like I might legit shed a tear onto this. Alright, but anyways, I want to go into the chat wall. If you guys have any thoughts you would like to share about Caroll Spinney, or if you want to share your favorite moments, your fondest memory related to Big Bird or Oscar the Grouch, now's the time to go and do it. Let me know what you guys may think. Like, just tell me right now. Even though I have no big connection with Sesame Street, I could definitely see why people are so heartbroken about this news. I'd like to think that in the afterlife, Caroll Spinney finally showing Mr. Hooper that drawing Big Bird made for him. I'm pretty sure he will love it. Oh my god, dude, please. Please, God. Too much feels. Too much feels! Alright. Just to say this now, Spinney was not the only one that's gone. After 3 years of cancer, my grandma went out on the same day with him, and it broke us. Oh, so sorry to hear that. But if I have to thank Spinney in any way, it was the message of grievance of loss. If you know the episode involving Mr. Hooper's passing, the adult said, "We can be happy to know them, and they will always live forever in our memories. This stuff happens, just because." So thank you, Big Bird, Spinney. Fly Grandma to heaven. We love you. Rest in peace. Let's see. I wonder if Matt Vogel might struggle a bit when playing both Big Bird, Kermit the Frog, and so many other puppets. Caroll has been amazing as Big Bird and Oscar for nearly 50 years, and it is sad that he is gone. Remember Oh, excuse me. Oh, and there's another one. Okay. Remember the Sesame segment where they... Oh, yeah, of course. A lot of people... Yeah, this is going to be something that a lot of people are going to be bringing up. A lot of people are going to be talking about Mr. Hooper's death. All right, so yeah. And then, of course, we got... They're also mentioning about the passing of René Auberjonois, who is the voice of the chef from The Little Mermaid, whom this week also he passed away. May he also rest in peace as well. It's very much the same way I feel when Jerry Nelson passed away. I'm not surprised given his health, but that still didn't stop him from hurting a lot. At least he made it for the show's 50th anniversary. Yeah, I mean, like, for 50 years, for most of his life, that he managed to even be there for the big milestone. That's definitely a positive thing to go and note. Let's see now. Wow, I love Caroll Spinney. He was so iconic that even Sesame Street fans don't want him to go. And the actors that replace him definitely hold a good torch to this actor. I'm still gonna be like Big Bird and look at the bright side. All I could say is, Sesame Street fans, things are gonna get easier. Yeah, we can definitely hope that things will go up from here. I'll read one more comment and then we'll cap this off. Hopefully Caroll is somewhere with I think I lost. Somewhere with past Muppeteers like Jim Henson, Richard Hunt, and Jerry Nelson. The first two died tragically young, and the latter died after retiring. Yep, definitely, dude. All right. Now, before I'm gonna go and fully cry, I just need to go and cap this off. So I just want to say, thank you all so much for watching today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cats. It has definitely been a blast of an episode. It is so beautiful. It has been so great. So I just want to say thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. And maybe next time we'll have as much crazy stories that we have right over here. It's been definitely fun. But for now, I will say until next time, see you later, dude!